Okay, I just started recording another video clip. So what I'm going to do now is just zoom in just a little bit and turn the clock. I think I'll just turn the clock drive off and let that drift toward the terminator a little bit. Whoops. The vibrations are just from me handling the camera. That's pretty nice right there. That's a good view, similar to what we had. I'm just going to turn the clock drive off for about just a few seconds and see what happens. That's very nice right there. That's very close to the lunar terminator with all kinds of interesting mountains and stuff right there and craters and stuff like that. That's where the part of the moon that I was sort of hoping to get in tonight right there. I don't think I'll bother changing the focal position or anything. It looks pretty good at that power. I'm just going to leave it linger like that. The moon won't be out too much longer. It's sort of approaching some tree branches, but it's very far in the southern sky. I'm amazed that the turbulence is not worse than it is, because that's really a very clear image overall as far as I could tell. So anyway, I forget what that's about. Probably zoomed in just a little bit. I think I'll just zoom that in for fun just a little bit, see what it looks like. See what those mountains look like up really close. I'm not sure what that power is, but I'll give it I'll let it go on that setting, because you can see the turbulence is just sort of interfering a little bit, but once in a while you could see it really clear up nicely. That's what amateur astronomers have to put up with all the time when they're observing things in the sky. Especially the moon and planets, where you tend to use high power a lot. So basically that's a pretty good image right there. All of a sudden it turns clear, really sharp. You can see all kinds of little subtle details in those mountains and stuff like that. I don't know what power that is, but it's getting up there. There we are. Now I think I'll just zoom in just a little bit more, if I can do it. There we are. That's even more power, I think. That's zoomed in as far as it'll go, as far as I can tell. So that's probably the equivalent of looking through, like I was saying, an eyepiece around 1500 power to 2000. The seeing conditions are deteriorating. I think the moon is starting to go behind a tree branch right now. So maybe, so it might not linger much longer that I can give you a good look at it. But you can see how close you can actually get to the moon. A really good amateur telescope would probably, like say a 5-inch refractor or something like that, a pochromatic refractor would probably give you about the same image sharpness if you could see the moon under really good seeing conditions. But it wouldn't go to this magnification like that, I don't think, too well. There we are. You see it coming in and out. I think the tree branch, it's just going in and out from behind a tree branch right now. There, I think I'm just going to let it linger like that for a minute. You can see it drifting a bit. The clock drive is not quite perfect at following things because the telescope tube flexes a little bit. It's so long with different positions in this, like as it drives along. So I sort of have to adjust things a little bit as I go. But that's really a pretty good view. You're seeing another crater sort of drift in there with a bright spot in its wall. That's very, very interesting to see that. That's almost like you'd be orbiting the moon right now. I'd have to do, the moon is about, what, 200,000 miles, 240,000 miles away. So if that's 2,000 power, that brings you almost like you're orbiting the moon about 1,000 miles above the surface. A little more than 1,000 miles above the surface, which is pretty good. I hope my calculations are correct, because I'm just doing them sort of crudely in my head as I go along. But anyway, looks like there's enough material here for a couple of interesting videos on YouTube. So that's what I was aiming to get tonight. I'll just see if I can get a different setting on the moon now. That's pretty good to look at that. It's coming along very nicely. You can see that the air turbulence just abates once in a while, enough for you to get a really sharp view. So I'm just going to zoom out on this a bit. There now, that the 5:1 zoom on the camera is as far as it'll go. You can see that I don't have the eyepiece exact. You cannot get the entire field of the camera at that wide angle setting filled in with the moon. So what I'm going to do is just try a different declination setting, see if I can just get a bit more recording on the moon done. This is not extremely perfect, but it gives you an idea of what goes on. Amateur astronomy is not a precise science in a way. Like amateur astronomers have to put up with all kinds of stuff going on, like mosquitoes and wind and cold and sometimes adverse conditions. But the weather out here tonight is really pretty good. I'm not complaining about it at all. I'm just going to see if I can shift over to a different declination setting from that. Quite a different one. Right about here. Sort of a bright little crater there that's still visible. So I'll see what I can do about that. Manipulate my way around. I got it. Well, I think I mentioned this is September the 12th, 2016. Right now it's probably approaching about 10 p.m. Manipulate. Whoops. That was just me crunching against the observatory wall. That looks pretty good. That's very interesting to see. Sort of bright spots all over, like little bright lines all over the place. Those are the rims of craters as they sort of appear, probably something like that, without the direct sunlight like shining on them, like at an angle. Like, so here goes. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm just going to let you look at that for another few seconds. You can see the tiny little craters here and there. This is an ancient University Optics eyepiece, 32mm wide scan, operating with a telescope of approximately 500 inches focal length, 32mm wide scan eyepiece, so it's about 400 power. You can see some turbulence blasting around there. What I'm going to do is turn the clock drive off for a minute now, just for a few seconds, and see what can happen. Whoops, there goes. I'm a little slow maneuvering around here because there's not much space between the telescope and the wall of the observatory. So I can't really maneuver around at high speed. I have to watch every step. It's kind of an art to move around here, but I'm used to it. I'm an old man now, so I have to be careful. Now, we'll see what kind of results I get from doing that. The moon is still in sort of a clear area. Sort of, as far as I could tell. I'm kind of surprised at the quality of the seeing conditions with the moon at such a low altitude above the horizon. There we go. That looks very interesting at a glance. I might just try changing the focal position a little bit. See what happens. I think it might be making it a little better. I think it is, yep. That's a beautiful view right there. That's fantastic. Wow. That's really nice. Well worth the effort to get this second video in. Let me just focus it just a little bit differently. It's better the way I had it before, I think. That's pretty good. I'm just going to let the camera run for a while, let the telescope stop moving around. I'll let you get a look at it with the air turbulence abating a bit. Here and there. That's a really good view. That is exciting. I'm going to turn the clock drive off for a few more seconds to give you a look at that stuff near the that whatever mountains or craters are right at the edge there in a minute. But that's a really beautiful view. By the way, you can go on Google and look up something like lunar topography or lunar landscape or something like that, and you could probably get maps of the moon on Google that would identify what we're looking at now. But that's really a beautiful view. You can see the turbulence getting better and then worse off and on. But the focal position seems to be pretty good there. I would say that's probably the equivalent of about 600 power you're looking at right there. If you had a telescope looking through probably a 600 power eyepiece, that's approximately what you'd see. So the image might be a little sharper under better seeing conditions. I lined up the optics pretty carefully. It's called collimation for the declination, approximate declination of the moon during the late afternoon and early evening. It took me a while, about an hour to do it. So there we go. That's coming in out really nice. I'm going to turn the clock drive off for another few seconds and see if I can get the stuff right near the edge of the moon. Here I come. I don't think I'll be editing out too much out of this video because I'd like people to see the bad things that go wrong, like the less than perfect stuff as well as the really good stuff that goes on. I think I let the clock drive go a little bit too long. Yep, that's probably what happened. Maybe I can just nudge it back into position by hand.